I am only an average man, but, by George, I work harder at it than the average man. Rhetoric is a poor substitute for action, and we have trusted only to rhetoric. If we are really to be a great nation, we must not merely talk, we must act big. Character, in the long run, is the decisive factor in the life of an individual and of nations alike. The one thing I want to leave my children is an honorable name. Wars are, of course, as a rule to be avoided, but they are far better than certain kinds of peace. The most practical kind of politics is the politics of decency. A typical vice of American politics is the avoidance of saying anything real on real issues. No man is justified in doing evil on the ground of expedience. Germany has reduced savagery to a science, and this great war for the victorious peace of justice must go on until the German cancer is cut clean out of the world body. There has never yet been a man in our history who led a life of ease whose name is worth remembering. No people is wholly civilized where a distinction is drawn between stealing an office and stealing a purse. Some men can live up to their loftiest ideals without ever going higher than a basement. The most successful politician is he who says what the people are thinking most often in the loudest voice. 9/10 of wisdom is being wise in time. We can have no 50-50 allegiance in this country. Either a man is an American and nothing else, or he is not an American at all. Behind the ostensible government sits enthroned an invisible government, owing no allegiance and acknowledging no responsibility to the people. Big jobs usually go to the men who prove their ability to outgrow small ones. The pacifist is as surely a traitor to his country and to humanity as is the most brutal wrongdoer. I don't pity any man who does hard work worth doing. I admire him. I pity the creature who does not work at whichever end of the social scale he may regard himself as being. I am a part of everything that I have read. Freedom from effort in the present merely means that there has been effort stored up in the past. Every reform movement has a lunatic fringe. Leave it as it is, the ages have been at work on it, and man can only mar it. Obedience of the law is demanded, not asked as a favor. A man who is good enough to shed his blood for the country is good enough to be given a square deal afterwards. I care not what others think of what I do, but I care very much about what I think of what I do. That is character. If there is not the war, you don't get the great general. If there is not a great occasion, you don't get a great statesman. If Lincoln had lived in a time of peace, no one would have known his name. The only time you really live fully is from 30 to 60. The young are slaves to dreams, the old servants of regrets only. The middle-aged have all their 5 senses in the keeping of their wits. I took the canal zone and let Congress debate. And while the debate goes on, the canal does also. Don't hit at all if it is honorably possible to avoid hitting, but never hit soft. The reactionary is always willing to take a progressive attitude on any issue that is dead. When they call the roll in the Senate, the senators do not know whether to answer present or not guilty. Order without liberty and liberty without order are equally destructive. Absence and death are the same, only that in death there is no suffering. It behooves every man to remember that the work of the critic is of altogether secondary importance, and that, in the end, progress is accomplished by the man who does things. I think there is only one quality worse than hardness of heart, and that is softness of head. No man is worth his salt who is not ready at all times to risk his well-being, to risk his body, to risk his life in a great cause. A thorough knowledge of the Bible is worth more than a college education. People ask the difference between a leader and a boss. The leader leads and the boss drives. With self-discipline, most anything is possible. The most important single ingredient in the formula of success is knowing how to get along with people. Get action, seize the moment. Man was never intended to become an oyster. A man who has never gone to school may steal from a freight car, but if he has a university education, he may steal the whole railroad. Old age is like everything else. To make a success of it, you've got to start young. When you are asked if you can do a job, tell them, "Certainly I can." Then get busy and find out how to do it. A vote is like a rifle. Its usefulness depends upon the character of the user. The unforgivable crime is soft hitting. Do not hit at all if it can be avoided, but never hit softly. Great thoughts speak only to the thoughtful mind, but great actions speak to all mankind. Courtesy is as much a mark of a gentleman as courage. When you play, play hard. When you work, don't play at all. Every immigrant who comes here should be required within 5 years to learn English or leave the country. Believe you can and you're halfway there. Do what you can with what you have where you are. Keep your eyes on the stars and your feet on the ground. Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. In any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing, the next best thing is the wrong thing, and the worst thing you can do is nothing. Far and away the best prize that life has to offer is the chance to work hard at work worth doing. If you could kick the person in the pants responsible for most of your trouble, you wouldn't sit for a month. Speak softly and carry a big stick. You will go far. To educate a man in mind and not in morals is to educate a menace to society. No man is above the law, and no man is to low it, nor do we ask any man's permission when we ask him to obey it. It is only through labor and painful effort, by grim energy and resolute courage, that we move on to better things. It is hard to fail, but it is worse never to have tried to succeed. The only man who never makes a mistake is the man who never does anything. Never throughout history has a man who lived a life of ease left a name worth remembering.